Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. I really quickly want to apologize for the start of this video. The audio got corrupted at the very start, so I had to cut that off a little bit. But anyways, this build is called the SL4KEST, and it is a sniper build for Game & Burst. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's go ahead and get into the video. The build, I just want to mention that I did upload this video about 10 to 12 hours ago, and so if you're having a little bit of deja vu, if you've already watched this video, that's why. But the reason why I deleted that video, I'm re-uploading it now, is because I really rushed that video, and I really rushed the editing and everything like that. It was just sort of like a mediocre video that I wasn't proud of, and I'm sure you guys didn't like either. So I decided let's redo it, and hopefully this time it's better. Anyways, this build is called the SL4KEST. If that sounds familiar to you guys, you've probably been a fan of the channel for a little while. If you can recall, I think it was 2 to 3 months ago, I made a video called the SL4K, or just SL4K, and that build was about rack attack and sniping, and this is basically the same sort of build, except it's a little bit different. The older build was meant to be a high damage build, and it was really good at the time because all you had to really worry about back in the day, like a few months ago, was getting as much damage output as you can, because the hardest content in the game was the Mayhem takedown, and there wasn't any sort of points to capture, any objectives to hold, or anything like that. It was just run through a map and get a lot of damage and kill everything that you see, and that was the requirements that the Flag had to do, and he executed it great. But now, with the Guardian takedown being the new strongest or hardest thing to do in the game, you have a lot more things that you have to adapt to. You have to be able to capture points, you have to be able to survive, you have to be able to do all the sorts of stuff that Flag is not really known for being that great at. So I decided let's really look at my SL4K build, because it is one of my favorite builds that I've made. It's a really fun play style, it's super tanky, it has a lot of survivability, has the most damage out of most of my builds. You can reliably hit over 20 to 50 million each shot, so it's just an extremely strong build. But yeah, without further ado, I'll bring you guys the SL4KEST FLAK. Of course, with all my builds, I'm going to go ahead and start with the skill tree, then move on to the gear, then move into an in-depth part of the video where I go over all the little nitty-gritty of the build, and then we're going to go ahead and show it off on Athenas. Anyways, I'll meet you guys at the skill tree. Hey guys, so we're here at the skill tree, and I know a lot of you guys like a fast and snappy build, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll through the entire build, just so you guys can copy it down, and if that's all you guys want to see, then go ahead and like and subscribe on the fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time, and the rest of you guys who are going to stay throughout the video, I'll see you guys afterwards. Hey guys, so that's really it for the build. If that's all you guys wanted to see and you just wanted the quick version of the build, you can go ahead and click off the video. That's all I really had to show you, and I hope you guys enjoyed the build. But if you guys are here and you're going to stick around for a little bit, I'm about to go ahead and go into the in-depth part of the video. The in-depth part of the video goes ahead and it breaks down all of the small details and all the synergies, and it's my goal to help you guys understand the build a little bit better, because in a lot of build videos I see that a lot of people are dragging out the build and they don't really explain why they did certain things, and newer players or people who don't really play FLAK or a character in a certain build might not understand why you're doing a certain thing. So I like to explain everything that I do in my builds just to help you guys understand a little bit better. If you guys don't want to see that, I'll go ahead and put a timestamp on screen right now, and that will skip past the entire in-depth part of the video, and we'll take you guys when we're testing on Athenas. Anyways, I'll meet you guys when in the in-depth part of the video. Hey there guys, so we're here at the in-depth part of the video, and like with all my videos, I'm going to go ahead and start with the skill tree. I'm going to go ahead and explain every little detail and all the synergy in the skill tree, then I'll go ahead and move on to the gear and move on to why I pick certain anointments and why I pick certain weapons over other ones, and then lastly we're going to go ahead and go into the Mayhem Modifiers, and I'll explain why I chose certain Mayhem Modifiers. But anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the skill tree. Of course, I'm going to always start with the skill tree that you're going to want to use, so we're going to start with Gamma Burst. This is going to be the ability that you use. The reason why you use Gamma Burst is so you can proc Red Fang, I believe it's called, and also proc your anointments. Anyways, besides that, you're going to want to use Persistence Hunter. This just extends your Garen Burst to be a little bit longer, and it's just a little bit more viable, as well as the gun damage is sort of helpful. Now you need to go ahead and put 2 points into either Ferocity or go for the Eyes to move up the skill tree. I like to go into Ferocity because I already have 3 in my class mod, but you can go into either one. Now the next thing you want to go ahead and do is put 5 into Who Rescued Who. This is just to give your pet a little bit more survivability and also a little bit more health regen to you. Now next thing you want to do is put 5 into Frenzy. Now you want to have 1 point into He Bites. Because in my class mod I already have 1 point into He Bites, but if you do have if you don't have a class mod that has 1 point into He Bites, you're going to want to put 1 point in there. And don't worry, because this build has like 5 to 10 extra points at the end that you can put to wherever you want. So go ahead and throw 1 to He Bites if you don't have a class mod that already has a point into there. Nextly, I like to put Psycho Head on the stick. Of course you don't have to, you can skip right past it and put 5 into Barbaric Yop. But I like to do it just because your pet gets a little bit more damage and he's super strong now, so I'd rather take advantage of the pet's strength right now rather than later if he ever gets nerfed. So I like to use Psycho Head on the stick, but of course it's all preference. And then I like to put 3 into Pack Tactics. Again, just a little bit more health for you and your pet as well as damage. And now you really don't have to put anything else inside of the blue skill tree. I like to put 1 point into Shared Spirit, 1 point in Mutated Defenses, and 1 point into Go for the Eyes, but I'm not going to do that just yet, just to show you guys how many leftover points you have afterwards. Anyways, for your augments, you're going to want to use, if you're using a sniper, you're going to want to use Empathic Rage and Endurance, but of course you can use any weapons in this build, and I'll be able to show you that in a minute. But if you're using a close range weapon like a Light Show or Monarch or whatever you decide to use, you're going to want to use Burst Aid. But of course, with my version of the build being Slack Flak, you're trying to be the slackest flak and you're trying to just sit back and do damage from afar while your pet's taking the entire load, you're going to want to use Empathic Rage just for the damage because you really don't need the healing. But besides that, that's really it for the blue skill tree. We'll come back with the extra points later. Now onto the red skill tree, you're going to want to put 5 into Interplanetary Stalker. And this just gives you a little bit extra damage as well as some perks to certain enemies like robots, humans, and beasts. Next thing that I go into is put 5 into Hunter's Eye. Of course I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to put 2 in it just to move the skill tree. Then you're going to put 3 into Head Count. And then you're going to want to put 5 into Two Fang. Two Fang gives you extra projectiles, and with snipers that's really good. If you decide to use multiple projectile weapons with this build, you don't want to put it into Two Fang. You want to put it into Leave No Trace and Hunter's Eye. But anyways, you want to put 3 into Big Game, and then 3 into Most Dangerous Game. And then put 1 into Galactic Shadow, and now you have to invest 3 more points to move into Megavore. Again, this is where preference comes in. You can put it into wherever you want. I like to put it into Hunter's Eye, but you can put it to wherever you want, and then your last point will go into Megavore. Now you have 8 points to play around with. Again, this is where you get a lot of viability with the, or flexibility I should say. This is where a lot of your flexibility comes with your build, so you can really do whatever you preference. You can go with Grim Harvest to get a little bit of extra damage. You can go with Furious Attacks to get more damage as well. Of course, I'm going to go with Furious Attacks just because it's a little bit easier to start up. Because this is just while shooting an enemy rather than killing an enemy or killing a badass enemy. You just get extra damage when you shoot an enemy. So that's just sort of good for my build, but you can do whatever. And then besides that, again, you have 3 extra points, and if you don't have 1 point into He Bites from your class mod, make sure to put 1 point into He Bites. Now for your pet, you're going to want to use a Spider and Scorcher. This is hands down the best pet right now, at least. I hope the other pets get buffed at some time, but right now, hands down, Spider and Scorcher is the best. And you can see right now I have 10 elemental damage, but as soon as I close my skill tree, thanks to Barbaric Yop, you'll be able to see my pet now has 30% extra elemental damage, and that's because Barbaric Yop just buffs him a lot, and this build is based around elemental damage a lot, so this just gives you a lot of extra damage. But that's really it for the skill tree. It's really flexible. You can really put it into whatever you want. You can have a lot of viability. If you want to go for more of a pet-based thing, I'd go with Gunslinger Jabber. If you want to go for a more elemental, you go ahead and go with Spider and Scorcher. If you want to use maybe like a, like a Headsplosion or a Skullmasher that doesn't have any elements, I'd recommend Great Horned Skag. Just really whatever you want to make the build, you can. This build is completely flexible to whatever you want your playstyle to be. But besides that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the gear. So the gear is super not really dependent. Again, you can use whatever you want, and just to show off that you can use whatever you want, I'm going to be using the wedding invitation for mobbing, but for bossing I'm going to be using an extremely not good weapon. I'm going to be using the bright side. The bright side is notorious for not being that great of a weapon, and just to show you guys how good this build can be with any weapon, I'm going to be using it. And yeah, so I'm going to be using this for bossing of all things as well. So you can use literally any weapon you want. You can use a white masher if you feel like it. You can use anything you want and it will absolutely destroy with this build. So I'm going to be using the bright side to boss today. I'm going to be using the wedding invitation to mob. Now with this build, you want your sniper, if you're doing it from long range, you want your sniper to have gamma burst on it. That just gives you a little bit of extra damage, and especially with the wedding invitation, it has explosive damage, fire damage, and radiation damage. That's just a lot of damage in general, as well as you have your shield and stuff, so that's just buffing your damage that much more. But besides that, I have a hyper focus, and I'm not using the hyper focus because it's a hyper focus. I'm using it because of the anointment grants an extra charge of rack attack. For some reason, if you're using this anointment with gamma burst, it will proc your shield and grenade anointments, and I'll be able to show you guys that in a second. But what you want to do is when you're mobbing or whatever and you're using your gamma burst and you don't have your ASE anointments procced, you go ahead and switch to this, you fire at an enemy and you switch back, and for some reason it procs your shield stuff. So I'll be able to show you that right now. So you can see I have my wedding invitation out, I shoot, it's only doing fire damage. I shoot, it's only doing fire damage. So it's only doing fire damage, but if I were to shoot, and again, only fire damage, I switch to this thing, I shoot, I switch back, you can see it's doing cryo and fire damage now. It's doing cryo, fire, and radiation. So for some reason, when you have gamma burst active, and you switch to this, you shoot an enemy, and you switch back, you get cryo, fire, and or you get all of your shield things. Oh, it's shock, not cryo, excuse me. But you get all of your shield and grenade anointments procced for some strange reason. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm not going to question it. It's just a mechanic that I'm going to abuse for it now until it gets patched. But yeah, besides that, your shields and your grenades can be any shield or grenade. I highly recommend one-shotter shields with this build, but I'm not using it. I'm using the old god just because it's a little bit easier to get. So yeah, old god's really good. Of course, you're going to want ASE in every single element, and you're going to want to change your element depending on what you use. So yeah, and same for your grenade. I'm using Hunter Seeker. Of course, change whatever you need to change depending on what grenade you're going to use. But yeah, so besides that, we're going to be using the Red Fang for this build. The ideal Red Fang roll would be splash damage, Jacob's weapon critical hit damage, and then normal general weapon critical hit damage. That'd be the ideal roll for the Red Fang, at least for my build, because I'm using the wedding invitation, but I don't have that. I just have splash damage, so it doesn't really matter what roll you have. You'll be able to see in a minute. It absolutely destroys with any roll, but you're just going to want to use a Red Fang. This makes it to where all the enemies are distracted, and yeah, so Red Fang, and then your last thing, your artifact, is going to be a Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge. But yeah, besides that, that's really it for the year. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Mayhem Modifiers. Now with the Mayhem Modifiers, I just sort of went through my head and I was like, what would be the best for sniping? I was like, okay, I'm far away, I don't really have to worry about chain gang, and or post-mortem, because you're really far away. You're not going to be affected by chain gang, and you'll be able to see the skulls coming at you really easily with post-mortem. So those are extremely good. I use high voltage because I'm not using shock too much in this build. I usually use radiation and corrosive, but with right now, what I'm using right now is I am using shock because as I said, I'm using the bright side of the boss, and I need just a little bit of help to strip the shields, so I'm going to be using shock, but most of the time I don't use shock. But yeah, besides that, I have Galaxy Brain, and I was like, oh, how can I make it easier on myself to get a little bit more damage out of this? And I was like, okay, I could use Big Kick Energy, and that would give me 25% extra gun damage, or I can use Galaxy Brain, which will basically guarantee me a critical hit every single time. So I was like, okay, using a sniper from long range, it'd be easier to hit crit hits with Galaxy Brain, so I'm going to use that instead. So that's really it for the in-depth part of the video. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys, oops, did not mean to do that. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some synergies with the hyper focus that what you'll see me doing a lot inside of the testing part of the video. Is what I'll do is I'll have my wedding invitation out, and then I'll be shooting just randomly, and randomly I'll just go ahead and look up and I'll do that, and you'll see in the bottom my gamma burst pops up for a second. And what that's doing is it's called a fake burst, and that is proccing your ASC anointments, and that's what you're going to want to do anytime you cast gamma burst. You're going to look up in the sky, you're going to want to fake cast, and you're going to want to cast. That's going to basically proc your action skill and anointments, and also proc your gamma burst anointments when you cast gamma burst. So that's just really good. It's a good way to get a little bit of extra damage when you first start gamma burst. So you go ahead and look up, you cast it, and you cast it down, and that gives you all of your anointments. As you can see right there, I've been doing shock and radiation damage, and then when that goes away, you'll be able to see in a second, bam, it's gone. You'll see a lot of the times in the middle builds, I'll be gone, or the extra elemental damage will be gone. So I'll change, I'll shoot, I'll change back, and it's back. And again, that's just because the extra charge of rack attack gives you that for some reason. So that's really it for the in-depth part of the video. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll go ahead and see you guys on Athenas. Hey there guys, so we're here at Athenas, and if you just skipped here and you passed the in-depth part of the video, I want to go over a few things that are extremely important for the build. So if you skipped the in-depth part of the video, make sure you stay here for 5 to 10 seconds so I can explain a few things. So if you saw the in-depth part of the video, you can skip ahead like 20 seconds, but if you didn't, make sure you stick around. So the first thing I want to talk about is your class mod. When you're using Red Fang, you want to make sure, and this is the most important thing, you have at least 1 point onto He Bites, and that is this ability. He Bites will give you reflection damage, and in turn, He Bites will proc Frenzy. You need to have 1 point into He Bites. If you do not have a class mod that does not have 1 point into He Bites, take a point out of Mutated Defenses, take a point out of Shared Spirit, take a point out of Leave No Trace, take a point out of whatever you can and put it into He Bites, because you need at least 1 point into He Bites to proc Frenzy. But besides that, you want to, for my Hyper Focus, you don't need a hyper focus. It can be any gun as long as it grants an extra charge rack attack. And the reason why is because for some reason, whenever you are using gamma burst and you switch to a weapon with extra charge rack attack and then switch back to a gamma burst weapon, it will proc your ASC anointments. So you'll see me doing that a lot just to proc my ASC. So that's another important thing that you're going to want in your build. But yeah, besides that, I'm going to be using a light show to get rid of death skulls, because that is one of my Mayhem Modifiers. Just because, you know, when they get close to you, I just want to damage them instead of running away. So I'm going to kill them really quick with a light show, then I'm going to switch back and then, you know, get back in the fight. But yeah, that's really it. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself so you guys can see the, you know, the build in its fullest potential, and I'll be back when I'm done mobbing.
Satisfied. A slaughter to remember.
Hey guys, so that's really it for the mobbing. As you can see, it's super tame, it's really easy. You can one-shot just about every enemy, and you'll notice against single enemies, it still works just fine, but I really recommend if you just have a single enemy and there's no enemies to ricochet the any sort of sniper, any sort of Jacob that you're using, just go ahead and switch to Light Show or Monarch or whatever and shoot them a few times and they'll just die instantly. So yeah, if there's just a single enemy, go ahead and whip out a consecutive hits gun or something like that, and that will take care of him quite fast. But yeah, besides that, we're gonna go ahead and mob with we're gonna go ahead and go boss with Trant, and like I said before, I'm going to be using the Brightsider, and the reason why I'm using the Brightsider is just to show you guys you can use any gun in the game and it will work perfectly with this build. So yeah, anyways, I'll go ahead and see you guys at Trant. Hey there guys, so we're here at Trant, and again I'm going to be using the bright side because it's not a good weapon at all, and I just want to prove to you guys that you can use anything. So I'm going to be using the bright side against Trant, and just so you know, if I'm going to be able to kill him and kill Trant in seconds with the bright side, you can use anything. I'd really recommend a backburner or a monarch or whatever you have. It will destroy him in seconds, and just to show you guys that, I will be using the bright side, which is not that great of a weapon. Anyways, I'll go ahead and see you guys afterwards. Hey guys, so that's really it for the build, and as you can see, it's an extremely strong build. I think it's a really fun build. It's really worth getting and trying out for yourself. So yeah, if you guys really want the build and you liked it and stuff like that, go ahead and hit me up on PlayStation. My name is Slowbrew, with an I instead of an L, and yeah, if you guys like the build, go ahead and like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. But before we log off, and I should have said this beforehand, before I get off, I have two builds coming together. One build where it's one of my more popular builds on my channel, Cyberbully. It's called Cyberbully 2.0, and it is coming within the next week. It is a build revolving around cyber spikes, and it absolutely destroys. I have taken out Trant, I've taken out Grave Ward in less than like 5 to 10 seconds. It is a very strong build, a very strong anointment, and I'm excited to show you guys that. But on top of that, I also have Flak the Ripper coming out, which is a melee build, and on top of all that, I have a light show build coming out, and this light show build is not going to be like the light show builds you guys have seen before, where it's like somebody just using a light show with a normal crit hit build or something like that. This is going to be a actual light show build. This build is going to be completely based around it, and I have one more special build coming out, but I'm not going to spoil that one for you guys. And yeah, so expect all these builds to come out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.